bleeding purple and gold. From the heart of Los Angeles, this is the LakersNation.com podcast with your host, Trevor Lane.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. As always, we are powered by CLNS Media and LakersNation.com, your home for everything Lakers. Well, life has not been easy for the Los Angeles Lakers without LeBron James. Going to be talking all about that and a possible return for the King on today's show. But first, I do want to give a shout out to our sponsors, Uptime Energy Drinks. You can find them at 7-Eleven, GNC, and Amazon.com. Uptime is how energy should feel. And Vivid Seats. Vivid Seats is the official ticket reseller of Lakers Nation. All you have to do is head over to the Vivid Seats app in your phone, use the promo code LakersNation in all caps, and you get 10% off your next Lakers game. Again, that's Vivid Seats app. Use that promo code LakersNation in all caps, and you'll get 10% off your next Lakers game. This is for first-time customers. All right, guys, so let's talk a little bit about some news, and then I want to get into some grades. By the way, it's just me today, guys. I decided it's been a while since I've done a solo podcast, so thought it would be just me, and we'll dive into some things going on in the world of the Lakers right now. So plenty to talk about. The big news, though, LeBron James. So LeBron's been out for some time now, and the Lakers have really been struggling without him. At this point, LeBron has missed 11 games already, and we're getting new information about this injury. But before I even get into that, the good news that we got today from the Los Angeles Lakers was that LeBron James is going to be returning to practice. The Lakers are heading out on a two-game road trip. They're going to OKC, they're going to Houston, and when they get back, LeBron's not going with them. When they get back, LeBron's going to be returning to practice with the Lakers. He's been cleared to practice with them. To what extent, we don't know that just yet. We don't know if he's going to participate in every single aspect of practice right out of the gate. But this is a good sign. That's a good thing for the Lakers to have LeBron James back and practicing. Chris Broussard was on Fox Sports programming. He was on Undisputed. And he mentioned that he spoke to Rich Paul. And here's the quote I've got for you. He said, "I was in contact with Rich Paul this morning, and he told me if this was the playoffs, LeBron would be playing. LeBron is day-to-day from now on." So obviously, the injury is healed enough to where if LeBron had to play right now, he could play. He could get out there and play. And I know some of you are probably thinking, well, we need him right now, right? The Lakers have not been good. They're struggling. They need to win basketball games. Trust me, I get it. I'm watching the standings too. I'm seeing them slip. They're falling down into 9th place. In fact, just a little bit ago, the Utah Jazz defeated the Los Angeles Clippers. Once again, the Clippers not helping out the Lakers. And the Lakers are now sitting half a game behind Utah for that 8th seed in the West right now. So, I mean, hey, I get it. Lakers fans right now are probably a little bit uncomfortable with where the Lakers are sitting. I'm certainly uncomfortable. I'm not too pleased seeing them on the outside looking in to the NBA playoffs at this stage. But the Lakers are going to do everything they need to do to get LeBron back to 100%. Because I think this quote from Rich Paul via Chris Broussard is telling in that, yeah, if it was the playoffs and it's win or go home, right? If it's a must-win situation, then yeah, LeBron's going to be out there. But then you're accepting that risk that he might get re-injured. You're just assuming that, hey, that's a risk that we'll take right now. If he gets re-injured, well, then, we're probably going to lose, and then he's got the rest of the summer to heal up and get back to get himself right before next season. Where they're at right now, right, we're just past the midway point in the season. Now isn't the time to take that risk. Yes, the Lakers are struggling right now, but there's always a possibility that they can win some of these games. And even if they don't, let's say the Rockets blow them out. Let's say OKC blows them out. Golden State blows them out. All these things happen, right? That doesn't mean that LeBron can't come back later and then the Lakers go on a run. It's possible for them to go on a run and get back into the playoff mix. There's still time to make up for this lost ground. Now, again, I'm not comfortable with it. And I can tell you that what's happened here with the timing of this injury, some people have said this is good timing. I don't think it's good timing at all because the Lakers have accepted losses or taken on losses to teams that they would have beaten if LeBron James was there. So you took teams that you should have been putting in the win column and they got pushed to the loss column. And in order to make the playoffs, in order to get a high seeding in the NBA, you have to beat the teams you're supposed to beat. And the Lakers have lost to a number of teams that they should have beat. And that's where you can really get yourself into trouble, because now you have no margin for error when you go play the good teams like Oklahoma City. You go play a resurgent Houston Rockets team. You go play some of these tougher squads. Of course, the Golden State Warriors, you've got to match up with them. And now you have no margin for error. But even with that being the case, it's still the right move to rest LeBron, let him get back in the swing of things in practice, take however long he needs to get back to 100%, because until he gets back to 100%, there is the risk of re-injury. And Sam Amick of The Athletic put out a piece all about this, all about that the fact that Rich Paul revealed that this is actually a grade 2 strain. Grade 2, that was news to everybody. This was a grade 2 strain. That LeBron, his initial prognosis was 3 to 6 weeks. We are just past the 3-week mark. So if anything, LeBron James is right now ahead of schedule. So if he comes back in, say, the next week, the next 2 weeks, he's ahead of schedule, really. Right? He could be out another 3 weeks. On top of what he's already missed, he could miss another 8 or so games, and he would be right about where he should be for this injury. So this was a more significant injury than what we were led to believe or what we understood. So with that being the case, also, you've got to think that the Lakers are going to do whatever they need to do to play it safe with LeBron and bring him back when he's 100%. Right? And that's the right thing to do. That's what you have to do in this situation, because he's LeBron James. He's your franchise star at this point. He is the guy that you have built this team around, or have tried to build this team quickly around this past summer. And you know that this team isn't going anywhere without him. If they do squeak into the playoffs without him and he's not healthy, they're not going anywhere. If they have him and he's healthy, they've got a puncher's chance against anybody. If they're the 8th seed and they're matched up with Golden State in the first round, no, they're not the favorites. But if you've got LeBron, you've got a chance. So they have to have him healthy. They have to have him 100%. So in that way, I think they've done the right thing. They're keeping him out, holding him, letting him rest. And that's exactly what they should do. And that's what Rich Paul is saying as well. Saying, hey, we're not on anyone's timeline. Okay, this is again via Sam Amick of The Athletic. We're not on anyone's timeline. We are going to get back when he's 100%, when he's ready to go. And LeBron doesn't like this. LeBron doesn't like sitting on the sideline and watching the team struggle. He's a competitor. He wants to win. But at the end of the day, you have to be smart. You have to in his situation and the Lakers situation. They have to be smart right now. They have to let him come back when he's ready to come back, as frustrating as it is to watch the team struggle. And of course, I'm saying all this, the most recent game was a Lakers win over the Chicago Bulls, but even that didn't inspire a whole lot of confidence. The Lakers pulled away in the fourth quarter, but up until that point, it was kind of a back and forth affair. Which, by the way, I hope that you guys are listening to the Lakers Nation post-game shows that we're doing. After every game, I go on to Facebook Live. Sometimes it's just me. Most of the time, I have Jas Kang with me, and we go back and forth and we break down the game. And the cool thing is I get to take comments right from you guys live. So if you're listening to this show, hopefully, after every Lakers game, you hop onto the Lakers Nation Facebook page, check out the Lakers Nation post-game show. We talk all about it, take your questions, your comments, your thoughts. After a tough loss, we can all kind of vent, decompress a little bit. We celebrate wins together. It's a lot of fun. So make sure you guys check that out. But back to my point, with LeBron James, the Lakers have to do everything they can to make sure he's 100% healthy because of that risk of re-injury. And you could re-injure this thing. This is a partial tear of the muscle. And if you come back too soon, you're going to make it a heck of a lot worse. So yes, it's frustrating watching the team struggle. LeBron is frustrated watching them struggle. But at the end of the day, they're doing exactly what they have to do. Now, I thought an interesting point did get raised. Chris Broussard was making this point also on Undisputed. Mentioned that you've got the Lakers have a little bit of a silver lining here with this LeBron injury and the timing of it. And I hate the timing of it. I told you guys that. I don't like the timing of it. I'm not a fan of where they are right now because they got this injury, because they picked up this injury to LeBron, and of course Rajon Rondo and Kyle Kuzma and JaVale McGee, all these guys have missed games as well. And all this happens during the soft spot of the schedule. They're losing games that they should win, and that's been a problem. Okay, but the silver lining is that now the Lakers have a better idea of what they've got. They do. They've got a better idea of what they've got. They know, can Lonzo Ball step up and lead the team? Can Brandon Ingram step up and lead the team? Can Kyle Kuzma step up? Can those three guys come together and carry this team while LeBron's out? And so far the answer has been no. And no, they can't. Right? They're not ready to do that at this stage. That doesn't mean they'll never do that. There's still a possibility for them to eventually evolve into those players. These are young guys. There's still plenty of growing to do. It just informs the Lakers that, hey, they're not ready to do that right now. And I'm going to get into some of the frustrations with those guys. That's coming, so don't worry. I know there's a lot of people out there that are down on Brandon Ingram or down on Lonzo Ball, down on Kyle Kuzma. We'll talk all about that, right? But the Lakers now heading into the trade deadline, which is coming up on February 7th. My next show, I'm going to have Keith Smith on, salary cap expert, and we're going to break down everything that you need to know about the trade deadline and the Lakers salary cap situation. But so cheap plug for that show that's coming up. But the Lakers now know, heading into the trade deadline, what they've got. And they know what their guys can do because they've seen them out there without LeBron. This was their chance, right? This was the chance for Brandon Ingram, for Lonzo Ball, for Kyle Kuzma, for all of them to step up. This was it. And they didn't. They didn't step up. Not consistently. We saw flashes. Lonzo Ball stepped up against the Bulls. Okay, we saw Brandon Ingram had a few good games. He had a nice game against the Sacramento Kings. Right? Kyle Kuzma has had his moments. Okay, he had his 41-point outbursts, but they couldn't do it consistently. And that's telling, right? Doesn't mean they're bad players. Doesn't mean that they're not going to be successful in the future. Doesn't mean that they shouldn't be part of the Lakers core. But you know what? If you are the Lakers and an offer comes along for somebody that's going to help you win right now and is a surefire star already, maybe you're not as hesitant to go ahead and move those pieces because you can say, gosh, you know what? These guys truly aren't ready right now. On the flip side of this, if you're a team looking to make a trade with, say, like a player like maybe an Anthony Davis, are you as excited right now as you were before LeBron got hurt about the prospect of a deal built around, say, a Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, Kyle Kuzma? Are you as excited about that now? Now that these guys have shown that they're not ready just yet to carry a team? Probably not. So this isn't a good thing for the Lakers, even what some people look at as a silver lining, as okay, well, now the Lakers are a little bit more informed. Well, sure they are, but so is the rest of the league too. And if you're someone that was hoping that those chips could get moved for a star-level talent, well, what's happened over the last few weeks without LeBron hasn't really helped in that way. It's not going to help that endeavor. So that's going to be a problem. And the hope has to be that if the Lakers do sit out LeBron for longer, right? And we hear he's back in practice. We think, gosh, that means the earliest he could return, maybe he practices Sunday, plays on Monday against the Golden State Warriors on Martin Luther King Day, right? Maybe he does that. That would be the absolute earliest. It seems unlikely, though. It seems unlikely that's going to happen. But you would think, hey, if he does have to sit out any longer, maybe that's a chance for some of these young guys to step up. Okay, maybe there's a few more opportunities. They can go on a hot streak. Josh Hart can get his shooting on track, perhaps. Kyle Kuzma can get his shooting on track. Lonzo Ball can find aggressiveness in every single game. Hopefully these things can happen. It just hasn't yet, right? So I can't say it's going to happen. There's still some opportunities that will be there. But for right now, the LeBron James injury has been a big negative for the Lakers, both in the standings and in the trade value or overall value of their young players. And I know I'm going to get people that are jumping on my case and saying, hey, you can't look at these guys as just trade chips. How are they supposed to go out there and play when we're constantly talking about trading them and all that? I'm just talking about their value. Just their value overall, value to the team. Yes, other teams in the league are constantly going to be evaluating everyone else's talent, right? That's part of the way we determine value. We look at contracts in this league, and we say, hey, this player is worth this contract, or no, he's not. Remember when Victor Oladipo was traded to the Indiana Pacers in that Paul George deal? most people, myself included, were saying, best case, Victor Oladipo is barely worth his contract. He was a little over $20 million. Maybe if he really hits his peak, he's worth that deal. Otherwise, this could be a bad contract for the Pacers. Now you're thinking, hey, Oladipo's been a star. You'll give him that contract all day, every day. So that's one way that you would determine values. You base what kind of bang for the buck you get, right? How much production you get out of a player compared to how many dollars you're paying him. But the other way is you look at trades. How much could I get in return for this player? And we can kind of gauge their value by that. And we use that as a measure of well, okay, this player is worth X amount. If I traded this player and this player, does that equal a superstar? That's another way that we look at value in the NBA. So I'm not saying that I want the young players to be traded or anything like that, or that they should live in fear constantly of being on the block. It's just reality. When you have a team that's led by LeBron James and a 34-year-old LeBron James who is looking to win championships, you're either going to produce or you're not going to be part of the equation. And so it's going to be up to these young guys to step up. Either they increase their trade value and then they get shipped out somewhere else and then they can run the show elsewhere, or they prove that they can stay and the Lakers can be a contending team with them. So far, it hasn't quite happened yet. And again, we'll get into some more details. I'm still high on these young guys. I still think there's a lot of potential here and there's a long way to go, but this doesn't happen overnight, right? And so I understand the frustration with people get with Brandon Ingram and with Alonzo Ball and all these guys, because they're supposed to be, the next generation. But it takes time to do these things. It takes time in order to hit the next level as an NBA player. And so I think that we need to pull back our expectations a little bit from them. At least that's something that we've learned from this stretch here without LeBron James. They're not ready. It may not be their fault. Okay, it can be frustrating, but they're young players. And that's what happens with young players sometimes. Okay, it's the way it goes. Going hand in hand with that, another story that came out. Luke Walton's job security. This has been a big topic. It seems like ever since LeBron came on board, there had been people wondering how long Luke Walton is going to last. And maybe rightfully so. We've seen coaches get dismissed under LeBron James with LeBron on the team. That's happened. But there's this sense that, well, Luke doesn't have that much experience, right? And Luke isn't Magic's guy. Luke isn't Rob Pelinka's guy. And because of these things, Luke's going to get canned. They're going to let him go the first opportunity. He's going to be gone. And I don't think that's quite fair. And I thought that Mark Stein, who's one of my favorite reporters, wrote a really nice piece for the New York Times all about this, explaining why that's the case, why Luke Walton shouldn't be shown the door, even though the Lakers are struggling. And a lot of people have pointed to the fact that the Lakers have been terrible offensively. They have. They've been terrible on the offensive end without LeBron James. But they've also been good defensively. Right now, they are 6th in defensive rating. That's pretty darn good. Luke Walton has shown that he can coach good defensive teams. The offense has been a mess. But how much of that is the roster that he was handed? How much of that is the fact that you're given a team that doesn't have much shooting, that is dead last in free throw percentage, that has these kind of mismatched pieces because the Lakers weren't worried so much about putting together a cohesive team this season. Instead, Magic and Pelinka were worried about getting guys who would sign one-year deals. That's why Julius Randle is a New Orleans Pelican. He didn't want a one-year deal. Rajon Rondo would take a one-year deal. The Lakers wanted to keep their cap space for next summer, and that's fine. If they go out and sign somebody, if they land a star, then hey, then clearly that was the right strategy. Kawhi Leonard comes to Los Angeles next summer, great. Kevin Durant comes, great. That's all fine. No problems with that. But that means that you have to understand that you're putting your coach in a tough spot. You're not just asking him to coach LeBron James. You're not just asking him to coach the Los Angeles Lakers, right? I mean, if the spotlight is going to be about as bright as it possibly could be with just those two factors, the Lakers and LeBron, but you're also asking him to do it with a team that it has a lot of mismatched pieces. And we knew that heading into the season. So shouldn't we expect some struggles? Hey, and don't get me wrong, I get frustrated too when I see the Lakers offense looks so rudimentary. When I see the Lakers offense struggle to find open shots game after game after game, when I see the Lakers pushing and pushing and pushing and running the ball because it's all they can do, because they know they're probably not going to score in the half-court offense. If they can get a stop on defense and get out and run, then they can really get after teams. Then they're a force. But if they can't run, they're in big, big trouble because they don't have a half-court offense they can rely on. And again, part of that is the personnel. Yes, there is some blame that should land on Luke Walton's shoulders. Absolutely. When the team comes out and they don't look prepared, when the energy isn't there, which has been my big concern lately, the energy hasn't been there from the get-go. They haven't looked like a team that's desperate to win. And given where they're at in the standings and given the schedule they have moving forward, they absolutely should be desperate to win. That, to me, is the biggest concern. Because that's where you see a coach needs to really step in and do what they can to get this team motivated. Right? And you know what the old saying is, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't force him to drink. It's possible. And maybe some of these guys just don't have that temperament. Lonzo Ball's not a fiery guy. He's just not. He's not a super demonstrative guy that's going to get out there and get his teammates fired up. Neither is Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram doesn't enjoy talking. He doesn't. Right? Lance Stevenson would probably never stop talking. But he's not the guy that you're going to expect to lead the team right now. The two main pieces that you want leading the team, Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram, your number 2 overall picks, in their respective draft classes, aren't big talkers. They're just not. Some of us aren't. It's the way it goes. And so that's up to Luke Walton then to figure out other ways to get these guys going, to get these guys fired up, right? So I'm not saying Luke's blameless here. I don't love everything that Luke has done, but I don't think you can give all of the criticism directly to him without acknowledging the other things that are going on as well, without acknowledging the situation that he's in. And then if you're in the camp, and Stein made this point too, if you're in the camp that wants to get rid of Luke, and trust me, I see this all the time on our post-game show, I see it in all the comments online and on Twitter. Of course, people love to go off on Twitter. If you're in the fire Luke camp, who are you hiring? And don't say Mark Jackson. I've seen that name coming around a bunch. Don't say Mark Jackson. Right? I have no problems with Mark Jackson, but you're not throwing Mark Jackson onto this team midway through the season. Who's going to do a better job than Luke Walton that you're going to put in there right now? Nobody. There's nobody that's going to come in and make changes that are magically going to make this team suddenly start winning. Right? Sure, you've had issues with Luke's rotation. Right? I've had issues with Luke's rotation. There's been times where it's been messy. There's been times where the team hasn't had the energy they need to. The offense has looked sloppy. Some people may be able to fix a little bit here and there. But in doing so, might they sacrifice the defense? Might they sacrifice the success that Luke Walton has had on the other end of the floor with this team? I mean, these are things you have to consider. The upheaval of making a coaching change now, at this point in the season, isn't worth it. It's just not. Because you're not going to get somebody that's going to come in and just magically fix things right away. That's not the way this is going to work when you look at how this roster is constructed. It's not like Luke has the Golden State Warriors lineup and he's still a team that's floating right around 500 and is sitting on the outside of the playoffs. Then, hey, if you've got that kind of talent lined up and you can't get them to perform, then yes, by all means, new coach, come on in. Because they've got something to work with, right? This team that's been put together is not here to win right now. Okay, I mean, don't get me wrong. They're here to win and hopefully get to the playoffs and turn some heads and do some good things, but they're not here to contend for a championship this season. Magic Johnson said this in the offseason. He said, this season we're back. Next season we're back. Okay, meaning this season we got LeBron, we're back in the spotlight, we're going to scare some teams, we're going to do some good things, but not until we really put a team together next summer. Once we add these final pieces, once we go and we pitch Kawhi Leonard in free agency, we pitch Kevin Durant or Klay Thompson, whoever, and we land somebody, or we do something else with this cap space, we make a trade, we do whatever we're going to do, and we put a full roster together, that's when we're really back. And I think we need to keep that in mind, okay, when we're looking at this. Ramona Shelburne of ESPN reported the Lakers still believe in Luke Walton. And they should. Again, he's gotten results on the defensive end. No, the offense does not look good, but Luke Walton is growing as a coach. He's made improvements. He's gotten better. Okay? He's a great communicator. We know that. We know that he's a lot of people in the organization, including Jeannie Buss, have a lot of faith in Luke Walton, and they should. Okay, they should. Now, if the Lakers put together a star-studded roster this summer, or if they're able to swing something at the trade deadline, and then Luke still can't get them together, still can't quite get wins out of them, then yes, Luke's going to be on the hot seat, no question. But right now, no. Now's not the time for this. It's just not. And I get there's frustration out there. There's frustration from the team losing. It's frustrating seeing them lose to the New York Knicks. It's frustrating and embarrassing seeing them lose to the Cleveland Cavaliers. That shouldn't be happening. It's inexcusable. But that doesn't mean it's all on the coach. Because it's not. There's other factors in this. All right. So what I want to do here, and I've been holding off on doing this a little bit, I want to get into some grades. I want to break down the players here on the team and give them a letter grade. And I've been holding off on this because we're a little bit past the midway point. This is like a midterm grade. We're a little bit past the midway point at this juncture because I was kind of waiting to see how things would play out with the whole LeBron being out thing. I wanted to see how all the chips would fall. Right now, the Lakers are 24-21 as of this recording. So they are at this juncture, they're 45 games into their season, which obviously the halfway point would have been 41. So I'm a few games late, but I was hopeful that maybe after Luke called out called out Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram, we would get this kind of stretch of sustained good play, and then maybe that might adjust the grades a little bit, and we could have a little bit more of a complete picture. It hasn't quite happened consistently. So let's dive into some of these grades. All right. And I want you guys to keep in mind that when I'm looking at these and I'm grading these players, I'm not doing it based on how they are compared to, say, an average NBA player. I'm not doing it based on how they are compared to a superstar or whatever. That's not what I'm basing this on. I'm basing this on how this player has compared or has played compared to our expectations for them. Okay, that's what I'm looking at. Has this player lived up to expectations? Okay, bottom line. That's the big factor here. That's the approach I decided to take with this. Okay, so before anybody gets too upset with my grades or anything like that, that's what I was looking at. All right, so let's start grading the players that are on the Los Angeles Lakers, give them their midterm grades. We always do this. We do midterm grades, and then we'll do final grades at the end of the season. I'm not going to take a ton of time on this, but let's go through them because I think it's an interesting exercise here. I started with Lonzo. So Lonzo Ball, I gave him a C. Lonzo Ball, I gave it a C. I think he's shown flashes of brilliance. I think that he's been really, really good in some situations. I think that in others, not so much. I think the problem with Lonzo has been consistency, and that's the mark of a young player. That's the way young players are. They are inconsistent inherently, but the Lakers need Lonzo. Without LeBron, the Lakers have needed him. They needed him to be the engine, be the driving force of the team, be the guy who's bringing energy because he is arguably their best defender. And his defensive energy translates to the rest of the team, transfers to the rest of the team. His offensive aggressiveness transfers to the rest of the team. That's something we have seen. But he still has these games where he disappears. And that's not, he can't do that at this stage. He has to step up as a leader. He has to get this done and find ways to help his team win. On top of that, the shooting. He's only shooting 40% from the field. Not great there. 33% from three, which his three-point percentage is actually on the way up right now, but 42% from the free throw line. 42% from the free throw line on 1.1 attempts. Lonzo Ball, we have got to get that free throw shooting down. We have got to get that figured out. Teams are going to start using Hack Alonzo at some point. Just expect it. That's going to happen. Late in the game, teams are just going to foul him because they know he can't hit him. It's mental. Part of it is technique. Part of it is his form. Part of it is his placement of his feet. I hope the Lakers will work on this and get this sorted out. But because of these things, I'm just giving Lonzo a C. I think he's been phenomenal in some games. He's been really, really good. But because of these deficiencies we've seen, all I feel comfortable with giving him at this point is a C. That's it. And again, I'm excited for his future, but for right now, for what we expected from him this season, Lonzo Ball gets a C. Josh Hart. You know what? I was really high on Josh Hart. Summer League MVP. He's a good defender. I think he's struggled defending people on the perimeter. That's been a problem for him. He hasn't been able to stay in front. Doesn't quite have the lateral quickness to stay in front of people. But his physical strength, he's kind of got a little bit of like Derek Fisher body in the way that he's a little bit shorter. I mean, NBA relative to an NBA player. He's stocky. He's got that strength to him, that physical strength. And so he looks more comfortable bodying people in the post, which is interesting. He's probably better at defending bigs, 3s and 4s than he is at defending 1s and 2s. But Josh Hart is one of those guys that can come up with a big bucket when you need it. He can do a little bit of everything. He's that role player that every team needs. And he could eventually be a very high-level role player. He has had a shooting slump lately, and that's why Luke Walton just moved him out of the starting lineup. He's been struggling there over his for the month of January at this point, he's shooting 18% from 3, so that's not good. So that's why I ended up giving Josh Hart a B- for right now. I thought he was really good to start the season. He was great, and he's just kind of tapered off since then. And he's had too many games where we haven't seen him hitting the boards like he did last season. We haven't seen him contributing in other ways, and I think he struggled to kind of find his niche playing alongside LeBron James. I think he's done okay fitting alongside him because Josh Hart's shooting has been an asset there. But in terms of just getting involved in so many other ways, getting involved on the boards, getting involved in steals, things like that, those things haven't really translated just yet. So for right now, B- for Josh Hart. And the next guy, JaVale McGee. JaVale McGee was that guy that when the Lakers signed him last summer, everybody thought, okay, so JaVale's the backup. Who's going to be the starter? It didn't even register that, hey, JaVale could be a starting center in this league. And I know he just lost his starting spot to Tyson Chandler, but JaVale has been a pleasant surprise. You look at what he's done over the course of the season, and don't focus on just the way he's played. He's had a rough couple of weeks here, right? Since being sick, he's had a rough go. That's just the way it is. He hasn't been scoring efficiently in the paint. He's been getting burned on defense. But if you step back a little bit and you look at how he's produced over the course of the entire season, he's been really good. He was leading the league in blocks at one point. He's been a terror at the rim. He's been finishing really well in transition. He's been diving to the basket, finishing on lobs. LeBron's been pretty good at finding him. JaVale's been great. And when you add all that up, plus you factor in that the Lakers have him on a veteran minimum contract, expectations were super low and he has delivered. So JaVale, he gets an A. That's it. He gets an A. Expectations for him were very, very low going in, and he has exceeded those. He has definitely exceeded those expectations. He has turned himself into or put in a season worthy of a starting caliber center in the NBA, which most people wouldn't have believed possible. So JaVale McGee gets an A. Has to. Think that you've got to go with an A for JaVale. And let's get into JaVale's counterpart right here, Tyson Chandler. So the Lakers went into the season without a true center, without a true backup center. They were going to use Kyle Kuzma. They were going to play small. It didn't work. Didn't work at all. They were getting scored on like crazy. Kuzma was way out of sync. He was just struggling to defend anybody in the paint. It was a mess. Trying to use Kuzma at center and play small ball was not working at all. So the Lakers' whole plan backfired. And to their credit, the Lakers recognized that it wasn't working. They threw in the towel. They said, okay, this doesn't work. We can't use Kuzma at center. Our whole plan is kind of scrapped out the window. We got to do something else. We got to go more traditional. And so they were fortunate. And maybe a little bit of a favor was called in from LeBron James to James Jones, who was the GM of the Phoenix Suns and his old teammate. But the Phoenix Suns waived Tyson Chandler. They buy out his salary. They waive him. The Lakers pick him up. Tyson Chandler immediately improves their defense. He has slowed down lately. Got to remember he's 36 years old. He's not finishing at the rim the way that he used to. But again, he's 36. He's done a decent job defensively. He's done a decent job on the boards. He set some mean screens. He's a nice veteran mentor for the team. Again, his struggles on offense are a problem, but veteran minimum, you're getting legit center minutes out of him. Tyson Chandler, I'm going to give him an A-, right? A- for Tyson Chandler. I think he hasn't quite been as, I'm going to use the term explosive, but I'm not talking about physical gifts. I'm talking about just impact. He hasn't made quite as big of an impact as JaVale McGee has, so he gets a slightly lower grade, but still, he's better than expectations, than anyone expected him to be. A-. I think he's delivered. He's delivered, and he's been impressive. And I think he's been a nice veteran presence for this Lakers team. Controversial one. Rajon Rondo. A lot of people weren't too pleased last summer when the Lakers let Julius Randle go and then used the money they saved on Randle to sign Rajon Rondo. Now, Rondo is, obviously, he's got a background as a Celtic, so that's going to rub Lakers fans the wrong way right there. His game isn't what it once was. Yes, we know that he's a basketball savant. He's a genius when it comes to basketball. He's great with the young guys. He's teaching them, but he's a reluctant shooter from outside. His defense is pretty bad at this point. This is a guy who was known for his great defense when he was in his prime. Not in his prime anymore. His defense is not great. Reluctant shooter, so that can be a problem on the offensive end. But still, he's had his moments. I mean, without Rajon Rondo, the Lakers probably don't beat the Warriors on Christmas Day. So Rondo has had his moments. He's been good, but he's only played 14 games. So I'm giving Rajon Rondo an incomplete. Incomplete because, one injury after another. He broke his hand, and then the whole issue with the ligaments in his hand right now. He had a sprain in his hand. So these different surgeries he's had, only 14 games played. You got to give him an incomplete. But at the same time, you got to hope, that by the time the playoffs roll around, he's back and he's fully healthy. He should be back well before that, but you got to hope he's fully healthy when the playoffs come around because playoff Rondo is a thing. So that incomplete could turn into an A if Rondo can come back healthy and he can start leading the team towards the end of the season. Right now, though, incomplete for Rajon Rondo. Big Zoo. Let's talk about him. Ivica Zubac. So Ivica Zubac, the Lakers decided to keep Zoo over Thomas Bryant. Thomas Bryant is now starting for the Washington Wizards. So that's not looking like such a great decision for the Lakers. Thomas Bryant has been kind of a find for the Wizards, and the Lakers let him go this summer. Bryant is really good at running the floor. He can stretch the floor and shoot the three. Both things that you would think the Lakers would need. So it's a little confusing. Why did they keep Zoo, who has struggled last season after a promising rookie year? Zubac was really, really having a hard time keeping up with the new pace of the Lakers. When Lonzo came in, he just couldn't quite run with them. So why keep Zubac? Well, Zoo had a solid stretch this season. He had a solid stretch while JaVale McGee was out. Really showed well. Had a few really big games, especially when LeBron James was on the floor. LeBron James getting hurt Ivica Zubac tremendously because Zoo was doing a phenomenal job at popping into the right spots in the paint, rolling at just the right time, catching, keeping it simple, and finishing strong at the rim. You can do those things with LeBron James creating the kind of attention he does, you can have success. But when LeBron got hurt, Ivica Zubac became way less effective on the offensive end. He can still block some shots, and he's had some nice moments defensively. He's gotten bullied a little bit on the glass in some games against OKC. He got bullied a ton. Steven Adams was just knocking him around in there. So there's been some high points. There's been some low points. Overall, Zoo's probably provided a little bit more than what we expected from him because expectations for him were at the bottom. I mean, there was real question over whether or not he was going to be even in the NBA this season. But still, knowing the potential that Zoo has as an offensive player, the skill that he's got, the timing he has, blocking shots, when he puts it all together, I'm going to give Ivica Zubac a B right now. Yes, he's exceeded expectations, but not to the same degree as a guy like JaVale, not to the same degree as Tyson Chandler. He's exceeded them, but I still feel like we're not seeing everything we should out of Ivica Zubac. I don't look at Tyson Chandler, I don't look at JaVale McGee and think, gosh, we need to get more out of those guys. I think they're giving you everything that they can. Ivica Zubac, I don't think he's quite there. he's a great guy. I'll tell you that. He's a great guy. He's an interesting guy. He's funny. He loves playing basketball. He enjoys what he's doing. And those are all important things. And I think that he's an interesting guy to keep moving forward if they can keep him on the cheap. But for right now, I'm just going to give him a B because I think that we're not seeing everything we need to out of him. KCP, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, has become the de facto shooter on the Lakers because they just don't have that many shooters. He's their best free throw shooter at this point. He's the guy that they go to if he's on the floor. They've got him shooting any technical foul shots, anything like that, because he has been their best and most consistent free throw shooter. He's been a solid 3-point shooter. He's the one guy that can competently really come off of screens and shoot threes. Of course, I'm omitting LeBron from that, but KCP can come off of curls. He can be a tenacious defender at times. I think he's done okay. He was a starter last season for the Lakers. He just moved back into the starting lineup this season. He's, he provides the shooting that the team needs, but I'm still a little bit underwhelmed by what we've seen from him. I still don't think, let me put it this way. KCP is going to be a free agent this next summer. I don't think teams are going to be beating down his door. That's not to say that he's not going to find a home. He's definitely going to find a home. There's going to be a team that's going to want him. In fact, multiple teams will probably want KCP. But I just don't think teams are going to be beating down his door, at least based on what we've seen so far, right at midnight, okay, when the clock strikes and free agency begins on July 1st. I don't think he's the guy that as for what we've seen so far, the teams are going to be really gunning for. Okay, he's a good player, but he hasn't really taken it to that next level. And that partly could be why we heard this whole rumor that KCP wants out. And this is what led to the discussions for the Lakers trying to get Trevor Ariza, was KCP wanted to go somewhere else. He wanted to go somewhere where he could be a bigger part of the offense. Now that he's moved into the starting lineup, it's only been a game, but maybe this is something that sticks and maybe he's able to step up from here. He has had his moments. He's had his bright spots, just like everybody else. But overall, KCP, he's been okay. Just okay. I give him a B. B for KCP at this point. Brandon Ingram, one of the more polarizing ones. Him and Lonzo right now are the two most polarizing players, I think, on the Lakers. Brandon Ingram is the guy that everybody was expecting to really step up. And I was too. I was super high on Brandon Ingram in the offseason. I thought that he was going to be the one guy that was really going to thrive alongside LeBron James because he's so versatile. So versatile. I mean, you look at what Brandon Ingram can do on both ends of the floor and his wingspan and what that provides him. He's just such an intriguing guy. He's got so many diverse skills that he could use, and it just hasn't all clicked. Not the way we expected it to. His shooting has fallen off. His three-point shooting isn't as good as last season. His free throw shooting isn't as good as last season. That's been an issue for him. He's made some costly turnovers. He's tried to go ISO way too much. He's been frustrating in that way. It's been frustrating to watch him and take another long two. The long twos have been a problem for him. But he hasn't been quite as bad, I think, as people make him out to be either. I think that people jump on Brandon Ingram's case because he hasn't morphed into a star just yet. And I think it's easy to forget that Brandon Ingram is like 6 weeks older than Lonzo Ball. He very easily could have been part of Lonzo Ball's draft class. This is a very young player. He's just now scratching the surface of the player he's going to be. Okay? So no, he hasn't turned into the star that we thought he might be. Brandon Ingram, he looks right now more like a guy and not the guy. Okay, and that's okay. I mean, for a second overall pick, you'd like to see more. And I think there is more to Brandon Ingram. There's more that we will see. But right now, he's been a bit of a disappointment. So I give Brandon Ingram a C- at this point. C-, and I almost went D+ on it. Just because so many people were expecting so much more from him. And you know what, I will say, and I've been cautioning this for a while, he's been a late bloomer. He's gotten better as seasons have gone on. That's kind of been his history. He did it at Duke. He's done it both seasons that he's had so far in the books with the Lakers. He's gotten better later in the season. So, you know what? I'm optimistic that the best is yet to come from Brandon Ingram, that we're going to see a better Brandon Ingram as we move forward here. And hopefully that'll happen, and then we can increase this grade at the end of the season. But right now, We'll give him a C minus because he has been a bit disappointing. And if you were to give him a D plus, I probably wouldn't argue with you just because he hasn't lived up to expectations. There's no way around that at this point. Michael Beasley. Michael Beasley has provided scoring punch for the Lakers, been really good in that regard, been not so great in others. Obviously missed a big chunk of the season. That was due to the untimely death of his mother. Very, very unfortunate and tragic and terribly sad. But in terms of what Beasley has provided on the floor, I give him a B. I know it's B for Beasley, but I think that he's been solid. He's done what you expected him to do. He comes on the floor, he scores. He finds ways to put the ball in the basket, gives a little bit of versatility. No, he doesn't eat up a ton of minutes, but he's not costing the Lakers much either. So a B, I think he's solid. Been solid. Lance Stevenson. You know what? Lance is that guy that he's either going to do something, and we kind of knew this going in. He's either going to do something that makes you smile and makes you think, man, how did he pull that off? Some crazy spin in the lane, and he hits a tough shot, or he fires up a three where you're going, no, that's a bad shot, and then he drains it, and then he throws in the air guitar at the end, and it's just a ton of fun. Or he commits this horrible turnover that looks awful and makes you want to pull your hair out, and he drives you crazy. There's those two extremes. You're going to get one or the other. But Lance has been making things happen, and he hasn't been. I was really down on the signing when the Lakers made it over the summer. My expectations were super low for Lance Stevenson. But I think in short bursts and in the right situation, he's given the Lakers more than they would have asked for, more than they could have expected out of him. His three-point shooting has been a little bit better than we would have thought that it would be. Okay, he's been solid. He's shooting 38% from three right now. Right? That's one of the better marks on the team at this point. Okay, no, he doesn't take that many shots. And there's times where Luke can't play him. There's times where Lance is in a wild mood and he comes out in the first half and he's committing turnovers, and Luke doesn't play him in the second half. And that's Lance's own fault. But when he's under control, he can do some good things. He can handle the ball a little bit. He can create out isolation, and the Lakers don't have a ton of guys who can do that, who can just go get a bucket. And so you kind of take the good with the bad with Lance Stevenson. I gave him a B. I'm tempted to even give him a B plus. I could find somewhere in between there. I think he's been okay. He's been okay from what we expected out of him, and he's certainly provided some enjoyable moments. Mo Wagner, Svi Mikhailuk, Isaac Bonga, I'm going to lump them all together. We haven't seen a ton of minutes from them. Actually, let's take Svi Mikhailuk out of that because I can go a little further in depth into Svi. But Mo Wagner and Isaac Bonga, we haven't seen much from them. Both have shown some flashes here and there. Isaac Bonga obviously has lit up the G League a bit, done really well there. Mo Wagner has had some moments in the NBA. They're not ready this season. That's it. That's bottom line. They're not. And that's not their fault. That's not a negative on them. Right? Isaac Bonga is extremely young, right? Learning a new league, learning a new country, all of these things. Mo Wagner has had plenty of college experience, but he's just not prepared just yet. He's a 25th pick in the draft, right? If he's a rotation player next season, that's a huge win for the Lakers to grab him at 25th. You're not going to find a starter like Kyle Kuzma at 27 in every draft. It's just not the way it goes. Mo Wagner, there's some intriguing things there. Isaac Bonga, same thing. Gave him a C. They've been basically what you would expect them to be. Okay, they're rookies. We'll see what they eventually turn into. For right now, they're a C. Svi Mikhailuk. Svi lit up Summer League. He's an experienced college player. He's been playing basketball at a high level for a long time. I think the speed of the NBA game has been a problem for him. It's taken a bit more of an adjustment than I would have guessed based on what we saw out of him in Summer League. His jump shot hasn't been as consistent as you would think. His form is tremendous. His form's beautiful. He has an amazing jumper, and I think once he really gets his feet wet, he's going to be a great shooter. He can be a great shooter in this league. And he's better in other areas of the game too. There's a lot of people who wanted to just pigeonhole him into just being a shooter, and he's more than that. And he is dead set on proving that he's more than that. He played point guard growing up, so he's used to handling the ball a little bit. He's a pretty tough, rugged defender. He can make plays there. He can pass the ball a little bit. He can do a lot of things out there on the floor. So Svi Mikhailuk, I gave him a C+. think expectations weren't super high for him. Sure, there were some people who were expecting him to just light it up after seeing him in Summer League. I do think that as the second half of the season comes around, that Svi is going to be even better. Post All-Star break, we're going to get a better look. We're going to get a better Svi Mikhail look because he'll finally have his feet wet. He'll finally have his legs under him. Hopefully he'll have caught up to the NBA game, and we're going to see him a little bit more confident, a little bit more comfortable. But for right now, C+ for Svi Mikhail. All right, Kyle Kuzma. We only have 2 left here, guys. Kyle Kuzma has been the Laker to step up, right? Of the young guys, Kyle Kuzma has stepped up more than any of the others. And he has looked more comfortable playing alongside LeBron James than anyone else. In fact, more of LeBron James' assists come from passing the ball to Kyle Kuzma than any other player. Kuzma has been aggressive. He hasn't looked overwhelmed by the moment. He hasn't looked in awe of playing alongside LeBron. He's going out there. He's still attacking. He's still doing his thing. Yes, he's had his issues on defense. Yes, his three-point shooting has been bad. It's been bad for him. And this is a Lakers team that badly needs three-point shooting. Right now, he's at 30% from three. You need him upwards of 38%. You need him hitting in the mid to high 30s at least from Kyle Kuzma. Okay, so that's something that's got to improve. But overall, I think Kyle Kuzma's done a nice job, and he's been probably the most successful of the young players. So I give Kuzma a B-. Still high on him for his future. I think that he can do some really good things. And I think that when LeBron gets back, that's going to help him even more. Which brings us to our last guy, LeBron James. The man, the king, LeBron. He's been out. He's missed 11 games to count, and that number is still growing. But I give LeBron an A-. And I gave him an A- not because of his defense, because there's been plays that he has obviously taken off on the defensive end. Rested on defense. We've seen it. Not put in effort. But he's LeBron James, and at this stage, he understands what he has to do in order to be at full strength at the end of the season. And that's what we saw him doing. The injury, this has been his biggest injury of his career, right? Don't think he expected that. Don't think anybody expected that, because he's a guy who historically has not gotten hurt. Unfortunately, it happened to come while he's a Laker. But LeBron James overall gave him an A- because of how good he's been on the offensive end. He has been himself. He's been LeBron on offense. And this is at, 34 years old, where people were expecting LeBron to start slowing down. Instead, he's been just as good as he's always been. And given how dominant he's been on that end and how much the Lakers have fallen apart on that end without having him out there, got to give him an A-. Again, the injury, I took that into consideration. I took the poor defense into consideration. And he's had moments of good defense, don't get me wrong. But all of that coming into play, LeBron James gave him an A-. All right. Do you agree with me? Am I crazy on these grades? Let me know. Let me know what you guys think. Fire them off. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and comment on our YouTube channel there. If not, you can leave it in your rating on iTunes. You can rate and review the show. Please, we always appreciate a 5-star rating. And then let me know, what do you think? Was I off on these? Would you change some of these? And of course, if you're listening to this on LakersNation.com, go ahead and reply in our comments section. Were these grades horrendous, or was I on the money? Maybe you agreed with me. Okay, let me know what you guys think. That's going to wrap things up for today for this show. Thanks everybody for hanging in there with me, letting me get through all of this solo. Always fun to do a solo show every once in a while. Next show, I'll be back with Keith Smith from Yahoo. We'll be talking about the Lakers cap space and everything that's leading up to the trade deadline. We'll talk a little bit about some rumors that we're hearing around the NBA and things of that nature. So be on the lookout for that show. It's going to be coming early next week. And don't forget, guys, head over to LakersNation.com, your home for everything Lakers, and support our sponsors. We always appreciate it when you support the companies that support us. That's Uptime Energy. Again, find them at 7-Eleven, GNC, and Amazon.com. And Vivid Seats. Head over to the Vivid Seats app in your phone and use that promo code LakersNation in all caps and get 10% off your next Lakers game. My name's Trevor Lane. You can follow me on Twitter at Trevor_Lane. Check me out on Instagram at TrevorLaneNBA. Till next time, guys. See ya.